Great. So our next speaker is actually two speakers. Jennifer Wishnie and Kate Worthing will be speaking about educating the next generation of One Health veterinary practitioners. And this will be a combined online and in-person presentation. So I think we can go ahead and get started on that.
All right, I'm just going to share my screen. Excellent. Okay, well, thank you everyone for the opportunity for us to be part of this discussion today. As a new veterinary school at the University of Arizona, we are excited to be part of the One Health discussion across the campus. And we really look forward to some of the collaborations that we hope are built out of this symposium today. Now, probably as some of you know, the CVM's motto is unlike any other. And I really like this motto because in terms of One Health, we are really unlike any other veterinary school because we have had the opportunity to integrate One Health throughout our curriculum with the goal of graduating not only day one ready veterinarians, but also day one ready One Health practitioners. So in our presentation today, we're going to talk about how we are training our students to be day one ready One Health practitioners. And then Dr. Worthing at the end is going to talk about being a new college. We have some preliminary data on the students' perception of One Health as they go through their training program. So like many others, the CVM views One Health as the interconnection between animals, humans, plants, and the environment. But in practical terms, what this means to us as a veterinary college is that our graduates, when they go out into their careers and their practice, they will view their practice as a holistic practice. So every case that they approach, they're looking at it from considering and protecting animal health, human health, and environmental health in both their local communities that surround their clinics and also their global communities. And here we would like to acknowledge that One Health has always been a feature of Indigenous cultures, and the Indigenous students at the College of Veterinary Medicine have really contributed some very important knowledge and perspectives to our One Health learning. And it's been great being able to have those conversations as we go through our One Health training. And we look forward to those students continuing to contribute to their colleagues' One Health training. I just wanted to show you this. As our students start the DVM program in their One Health class, we have them in teams design a One Health logo, what One Health means to them, and then the class votes on that to represent their One Health class through the remaining theoretical training. And so this was the 2024 class. I like this one because it has, here you can see the human fingerprint, the animal paw, and then the rings of the tree trunk to represent environmental or ecosystem health. And this was our 2023 class logo. This one has the role of the veterinarian in One Health, and it also incorporates human, animal, environmental health, and also recognizing the Indigenous culture's contribution to One Health. So veterinary medicine, or One Health, has had a long history in the field of veterinary medicine, beginning with the establishment of the first veterinary school in the 1700s in Lyon, France. And this was established specifically to train veterinarians to address rinderpest, which was a disease that affected cloven-hoofed animals. It had devastating impacts on several different continents and at many different levels. So several One Health impacts in terms of human, animal, and environment. And it was only through a One Health contribution that we were able to eventually eradicate this disease. You are probably, several of you, familiar with many of these prominent figures in One Health. Dr. Virchow, who coined the term zoonosis, here up in the right corner. Sir William Osler, who taught both medical and veterinary students at McGill University, which is my alma mater, and was the father of comparative pathology. Dr. James Steele, who established the public health division in the 1940s at the Centers for Disease Control. He was a veterinarian. And Dr. Schwabe, who is also a veterinarian from UC Davis, who coined the term One Medicine. And while these figures contributed greatly to the establishment of One Health, really that initial focus was on the transmission of disease between animals and humans, or that interrelationship between animals and humans. And it wasn't until more recently that we recognized the importance of the contribution of environmental health and this intersection of human, animal, and environmental health, and the necessary intersection that contributes to the health of all. And this was through the Manhattan Principles that were established at a meeting that was hosted by the Wildlife Conservation Society and one of their head veterinarians. And as I mentioned, this started with an intersection between human and animal health. We've incorporated environmental health, ecosystem health, and have really seen an evolution here. And what we want at the veterinary school is to continue this evolution, whereby we are graduating day one ready veterinarians and One Health practitioners that are looking at their practice through the lens of One Health. So looking at the environmental, the animal health, and the human health components. So what does that look like in terms of a competent day one ready One Health practitioner? And in the simplest terms, this is how we view that. A competent day one ready One Health practitioner, veterinary practitioner, is one that every day to them is One Health day. So they're looking through that One Health lens at everything they do. And that can be really in any field of veterinary practice they're in. So it could be a small animal veterinarian who's considering what antibiotic is most effective for the animal that they're treating, but also what the potential impacts are in using that antibiotic on human health, or the potential impacts on environmental health and the contribution to antimicrobial resistance. It could be a food animal veterinarian who is developing a herd health program and is considering potential environmental health, environmental contamination, and the health of the animals that are going to go through the food chain and potentially affect human health. It could be the public health veterinarian looking at a rabies case that has both human and animal exposure and potentially wildlife exposure, or came from a wildlife source, or a professor like Dr. Worthy and I, who are teaching our veterinary students to be One Health practitioners. So in our curriculum, how do we actually go about preparing our graduates to be One Health practitioners? And as I mentioned, we're a new school, and so we really have the perfect opportunity. And I think Dr. Worthing and I feel both fortunate that we're able to be part of this, because unlike established veterinary schools that have very established programs, they want to integrate One Health, but it's difficult. It's difficult to put it into an established program, but we are developing our curriculum from the ground up. So we've had the opportunity to integrate One Health longitudinally. We have 4 semesters beginning when the students first enter the veterinary school, and we teach One Health across those 4 semesters. And we also integrate it vertically. So for instance, last semester, they had a case they were working up of a horse that was having trouble swallowing in their GI class. In the end, the horse was diagnosed with rabies. This case in turn moved over to the One Health class, where we learned about the epidemiology of rabies, and also our interactions as veterinarians and our obligations to work with our human health and animal health partners to manage rabies cases such as those. We also focus on an active learning and a team-based collaborative learning approach. So our students, when they come into the curriculum, they are placed in teams. We have a flipped classroom whereby they do their learning online prior to class, and in class they work in their teams on cases. And as most of you know here, or all of you know here, that One Health, these are essential skills for One Health: active learning, team-based learning, and collaborative learning. We also foster innovative and adaptive learners and skilled problem solvers, again, essential One Health skills. In terms of the fundamentals of our One Health education, we look at that as consisting of 3 categories. The students achieving One Health core competencies, so that's their One Health attitude: learning how to be leaders, collaborating, communicating. The second component involves their One Health knowledge, so the specific knowledge they are attaining regarding One Health issues. So that includes things like zoonoses, food safety, human-animal bond, climate change, and clean energy. And that is not inclusive and also will change over time in response to our societal issues and concerns. And then finally, taking that learning and that attitude and putting it into everyday practice. And that begins with their One Health classes, where we do the flipped classroom and they work on their case studies. For those that are interested, we have a One Health selective that focuses on research once they finish their theoretical training. And then finally, in the clinical year, we have a One Health clinical rotation where they work with their external partners in animal and human health. So really the opportunity to experience it throughout their curriculum. And it's this application that we're particularly interested in exploring. And to this end, we have started to look at some student perceptions on, or changing perceptions on One Health as they go through the curriculum. And here I'm going to pass this off to Dr. Worthing.
Thanks, Jen. So in the spirit of One Health and collaboration, this is a two-person presentation. So at the start of their One Health education, we did a survey to see what the students' perceptions were of what was the most important aspect for veterinarians of One Health. And we did that same survey at the end of their education just a couple of weeks ago. And actually the perceptions didn't change that much. Maybe it's not surprising that at the start, in the midst of a pandemic, they started their education in 2020, that controlling zoonotic disease was the most important aspect for them. And actually at the end, even more of them thought that that was the most important aspect. And maybe this is because as vets, we have responsibility and I would say personal pressure to keep our clients safe from zoonotic diseases, but we also have professional obligations to recognize and report zoonotic diseases. So whether it's that they started in the midst of COVID 2020, we were surprised that it didn't change, but actually it's not that surprising that that's what they thought was most important. So as well as this survey, then we did some free text questions for the students, asking them about what they thought the role of vets, specific tangible roles that they could do in One Health. And many of the students said that they could list hundreds of roles now after their education of vets in One Health. Several students, we were kind of heartened and surprised that they now see themselves as educators. So it's nice to see that these students are empowered to see themselves as educators of their clients and their community. And I think that they can be useful resources for public health messaging that maybe is underutilized at the moment. Several students said that they saw themselves at the start and they still see themselves at the end as stewards of wildlife, because at least in veterinary medicine, wildlife sometimes falls between the cracks of other animals or their environment. But these students recognize that there's human encroachment on their habitats, and the veterinary profession is one that can be stewards for these animals. But a nice way that we finished this class off, we let the students share their perceptions about One Health. And one of our students, a Navajo student, shared with us this concept of Hojo, which she had talked about before, which is a Navajo prayer, which kind of encapsulates how One Health has been important for generations prior to now, and is it still important for Indigenous cultures now. And we recognize that there's a diversity of Indigenous cultures, even in Arizona and around the world, but a commonality is the importance of One Health. And so she kind of ended this class with the prayer, and she's allowed me to say a few words of it. With beauty before me, may I walk. With beauty behind me, may I walk. With beauty above me, may I walk. With beauty below me, may I walk. With beauty all around me, may I walk. And so I couldn't have said that better myself, but I'm just going to finish this talk with a plug because I know we're here to talk about how can we collaborate. And a question that people have is, how can a vet help you on your One Health team? And if you Google veterinarian, this is the Google image that typically comes up. It's one veterinarian, it's one animal, and that animal is usually a dog. But I have to say, vets do not work in isolation. And as Dr. Wishnie spoke about before, whether they're treating a herd, they're addressing food security or food safety. Like she said, they're choosing antibiotics and they're mitigating antibiotic resistance. Even if they're doing surgery on a single cat in a single room, they're doing surgery either that was developed in human medicine and is now used in veterinary health, or they could be piloting some procedure that could be used in humans, or animals could be used as a model for human health. Lastly, and important to Arizona, if they're just doing simple things like preventative care, putting a tick collar on a dog, that's what a dog's ear looks like when it's full of ticks, then they are helping to break the cycle of vector-borne disease. So I don't want you to ask, what can vets do for me? But you should ask, how can I utilize vets in my One Health team? Because that vet, the single animal, that vet is thinking about the humans that are associated with that animal, and they're thinking about the environment that is shared by the humans and the animals. So it's that lateral thinking and that kind of holistic approach that makes them really great team members for One Health teams. So with that, we'll just finish with this image of the logos that our students have made about what One Health means to them. And yeah, we're happy to take any questions.
Please remember to say your name as you start the question.
My name is Jill Bullock from the Center for Rural Health. I heard an NPR story on veterinarians and high suicide rate. Is mental health something that is taught in your veterinary school?
Yeah, it is taught, and it's taught in several different courses. We have professional skills is one course, and in previous curriculums, they didn't address it. They didn't address the elephant in the room. So they do now teach resilience to our students. But in this One Health course, perhaps, Jennifer, you can talk more about that, about veterinary social work and the human-animal bond and how that is integrated into mental health.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. And it is a huge concern in veterinary medicine. At this vet college, I'd say, unlike any other as well, we have a dedicated mental health team that works with the students in a variety of different ways. And I had our lead at that team come in and do a session with our students on mental health and veterinary medicine and One Health. So what are all the sort of different things that are impacting a veterinarian and their mental health as part of their practice? And it was really, I have to be honest, and I mean, I wasn't the one teaching it, so I was like, oh, I gotta up my game here. But she did such a great job, and the students were probably the most interactive I've seen in class having that discussion. They were really engaged in it. So I'm happy to see our students addressing that sort of ahead of the game while they're in veterinary school.
Carolyn Clausen, interprofessional, clinical, and professional skills. My question is, what other animals besides gorillas got the COVID during the pandemic?
Several, quite a few. Of companion animals, cats were most likely to test seropositive. They would have mild signs of the companion animals. But to my knowledge, most mammals in experimental circumstances, they could demonstrate that it would go to the animals, but they were like dead-end hosts that would not give it back to humans. Except for minks and those kind of creatures, those kind of ferrets, minks, those could transmit back. But in terms of companion animals, they would be dead-end hosts.